This is just owner's first raw impressions. Haven't even ridden it around the parking lot yet, so that's next. It shifts so easy. This is great. I love it. The whole moniker of a beginner bike or entry-level bike, it really annoys me because it does the bike a disservice, and it's really the reviewers that are coming up with that name, and it's demeaning and inaccurate. I'm buying this because this is what I want. I want a smaller, more nimble bike, something that's just basic. I like the fact that it's basic. Man, this thing is a hoot. This seating position, even without a windscreen on it, this is just so easy and so pleasant to ride. I'm sitting here with an ear-to-ear grin in my helmet. My cheeks are starting to hurt. I wondered why. TJ Cycle, Austin, Texas. KTM, Husk. Work or White Performance. What is that? WP, I always forget. People are going to flame me for that. Nice. Toys, toys, toys everywhere. And enter here. And Kevin, Bikes and Pizza, came to meet for this. All right, walking in, first time, never been here. Ooh, they got a lot of KTMs. This is a serious KTM shop, man. Nice. Nice. That's crazy. That's $1,000 more than the bike that I'm walking out of here with. And it's a Deutsch bike. And this looks like mine right here. I think this is mine. This is mine. Yes, indeed. No temp tag on it yet. We're gonna go take care of the paperwork. Trying to get the camera far enough away here that it gets to see everything. That's the guy. That's mine, and they got it sitting on the ready to ride, ready to road pad. Nice. This is the color that I wanted. This is the dapper gray. The ash is more of a silver color, but I didn't really care for the turquoise stripes and stuff that were on that tank. I think they would have gotten on my nerves after a while. This is a little bit more neutral, and I like the red accents on the wheels, the tank, the side, and all that. And in typical quasi fashion, I've already ordered a whole bunch of accessories for this thing. They're coming in from India over the next couple of weeks. So I got CEAT and everything you can think of from the Royal Enfield catalog already coming in. Nice. You likey. Oh, first power on. I'm not going to start it in the showroom. 7.1 miles. We got to get a close up of that. So it's had a few runs around the parking lot for the PDI check and whatnot. But he said this is not a demo. He said it's going to have a handful of miles on it, so that's all right. I don't mind a few miles. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go take care of the paperwork. You likey. Okay, so my remaining balance is 44. What? 84? 44.84 after my down payment that I put on it. So there's $2,000. There's another $2,000, and then I'll let him count the 400 and change out of that stack.
So let me give this to Jess real quick.
Perfect, no problem.
And then I will circle back and come get you.
Okay. All right, everybody, here it is. The 2023 Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Mine. Just did the paperwork. They rolled it out of the showroom there, and I just did a quick walkthrough a minute ago trying to figure out where everything is, how to operate basic controls on it before I got on camera and made a silly fool of myself. And the first one was how to get this side panel open. The seat has a release latch, but the release cable goes over here, and it's just behind this side panel. So if you want to get the seat off of there for the very little tiny storage compartment that you've got, what I was looking for was the toolkit, make sure that that was included. We couldn't figure out how to get the seat off of the thing until I went in there. So I'm not going to do a likes and gripes yet. I haven't lived with the bike long enough, but this is an annoyance, and I'm probably going to find a way around it right off the bat. I'll find a different place to put the little cable pole, because this is a little bit of a kludge, and that key is bent. Well, that's not very nice. That key got sat on or something. Anyway, so you have to remove the side cover, and there's a little pop clip here and a pop clip here, so you just kind of pry outward on it, and it comes off. So make sure you're hanging on to it when you pop it off there, because if it goes flying and then it lands on the cover, you're going to scratch it all up, and that's just not nice. So there's a little push clip here that go into these rubber recesses, and then getting that line back up on there is a little bit of a pain in the butt when you go to relock it, but you know, it's a very basic little lock. You can see it's just a, you know, turn sideways, and that catches in here in this metal plate. So yeah, you know, built to a price point, but it should work. I'm just going to find a better way to do that without having to go for this little pull tab here, and that is what releases the seat. So gently put that down, don't step on it, pull the release, seat comes off. There is a little tab up here in the front that rides right under that, and here's your little pull cable that's just activating that very simple little latch there. And here's the factory toolkit. I haven't opened it up yet. I don't want to do that right now. I'll do that later with a full walk around video. This is just owner's first raw impressions. Haven't even ridden it around the parking lot yet, so that's next. But we're going to put the seat back on there. Oh, there's a little document strap there. Cool. Oh, there's another one there. Cool. And another one there. Cool. Hey, that actually works. You got 3 different ones, so you can put your paperwork under there. That's kind of smart. Better put it in a Ziploc bag, though, I'll tell you that. It's going to get wet. Get the little tab lined up on there and give her a push and a click. Okay, she's back on. And I didn't step on my side panel. Good boy. All right, so finding these little push tabs is kind of funky. Okay, that one went in. This one kind of went in. There we go. And then rotate this, lock that. No. Oh, there it is. And get it pushed in. You got to kind of hunt for it. Get it to push all the way in and then pull it back out. Okay, she's good to go. She's back on. Key on. Get the sweep. Goes back. It's running economically right now, and it's in gear 1, so it doesn't roll off of the side stand. That's one thing I will point out before we go anywhere with it. I had read some questions or concerns from some of the other owners in the UK, and they had mentioned that that side stand sits pretty proud, so the bike is not leaned over very far, and I'm going to have to agree with that. If you're on any kind of a sloped angle, this bike doesn't lean into that side stand very much, so it's almost upright, and it doesn't take much force at all to kind of lean that thing up off the stand, good and bad. You know, you park in a weird area, and that thing is very likely going to tip itself over or roll off of the center stand if you don't leave it in gear, so watch out for that. And of course, you can put it on the center stand, which I haven't done yet. Let's do that. Why not? Let's go to neutral. Clicky. Stand it up, and it's a little heavy. Heaving it up, not too bad though. The lever could be a little longer or give a different compound, you know, curve to it to give you more leverage, but that's not bad. Not too bad. Pull it down. It's easier coming down than it is up, but just step your full weight straight down on these. It's just like any other scooter or center stand. Stand on it real hard. The weight going down is more important than the lifting up. Lifting up is just to stabilize, so it's your weight that lifts it, not your hand back here. So yeah, that's not bad. Okay, while it is on the center stand and in neutral, let's give it a start, shall we? So start, run, switch, off, run, and then start is pushing it this way, so there's no button. Thump, 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 thump. I went through it and checked, did my own PDI before I got to this point. Made sure that the oil is sitting in the crankcase where it should be, up to the proper level. Look at the there's that thumper for you, shaking the whole bike. Gotta love it. Yeah, not a lot to go through other than the exhaust note here. I'll try to put my head over here and reach the grip. Where's the grip? There's the grip. It's got a pretty pleasing exhaust note. It's a little poppy, huffy, but it's deep. Yeah, it's got a pretty good sound to it for a factory exhaust. I'll probably be working with a couple of local companies, or at least US-based companies, to see if we can make a slip-on or maybe a whole exhaust replacement for this. But that doesn't look bad. I'm not displeased with that at all. It's tucked in nicely. Follow the lines of the bike okay. It does stick out a bit from this angle, a little bit more than I would like, but I think that's mostly for passenger foot peg placement and everything else. If it were too far in, it might get too close to the swing arm, and if it were any shorter, I think there could be problems with you know, passenger getting their feet baked off. So if I put a shorty on here, something a little bit shorter, I'll make sure that it's got just enough of a downward angle to it, not quite as upswept as that, so it wouldn't get in the way of the passenger peg. But again, I rarely ever ride with a pillion, so I'm not too concerned about it. Pretty cool. I haven't sat on the back of it yet. I'll do that in a little bit. It's blazing hot out here. It's over 100 degrees already, so I can't do too much walk around unless I want to dehydrate out here. So let's climb aboard, shall we? Pop it down off the stand. It's going to be a 5-speed transmission, 1 down, 4 up, neutral right in the middle between first and second, just like anything else. A few people have said that these are a little tricky to get into neutral. Let's see if it causes... No, I didn't have any problem. No, it's going right into neutral for me, so those other people might just have different transmissions or not as deft a foot as I have. So let's roll it around, just in the parking lot here, because I don't have the rest of my gear on, and I'm not going anywhere. My son is still inside soaking up the air conditioning, and I'm needing to garb up and figure out where I'm going before we go anywhere. Yeah, transmission shifts nice and smooth, snickety-snick, no problem, up, down. Of course, I'm not really getting into the higher revs or speeds here, but yeah. It's got a very heavy flywheel, I'll tell you that. I can feel it in the shifting, or the shift timing, and don't run over any nails back here, that would be a bad day. The shift timing on this, I can already tell you, to go smoothly with it, you basically don't even roll the throttle back up after your shift. You just release the clutch, and the inertia of that heavy flywheel is going to rev match right in for you without even changing your throttle position after the drop. But I'll learn it a little bit more as I go along. So yeah, snickety snick. It sounds really good. I'm going to have to get used to the low idle on this thing, because I swear it sounds and feels like it's about to die. Clutch is engaging right off of the grip, so that might need a bit of adjustment. Feels good though. It's very lightweight and nimble. I like it. She's flickable. Let's not do a header down the ramp, shall we? Okay, well, it's hot, so I'm going to finish getting my riding gear and the rest of my paperwork in order. I'm all signed up in there. Everything's been done. Oh wait, let's do the side stand kill. Yeah, it's got a side stand kill. Good safety feature. I'm going to get the ride ready. We're going to figure out where we're going to eat. Kevin has got to go back to work eventually today, and we were talking about getting burgers or maybe some Mexican food or something like that before we head out of town. But I'm going to put on my jacket and get ready for the ride. I'm going to mount my phone up here. Oh, excellent, thanks.
Everybody wants to see what a fat guy looks like.
Okay, go ahead. So Kevin is 6 foot, right?
6 foot, 270.
6 foot, 270. So he's not a circus bear, but it looks a little small-ish for him. Now, the one thing that we noticed when we sat down on it inside is the bars are very much forward, and I mentioned that when I sat on it in Katy. Yeah. So you're leaning forward to reach this. I've already ordered a set of bar risers that are about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, so it's going to bring them up a bit and back a bit, and I think that'll be perfect, but we'll see when those arrive. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's been about, I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes or something. We just sat inside, and I did my insurance stuff with Geico. That took a little bit because Geico didn't have this listed as an available model in their system, and they had to create it. So am I the first one in Texas to register and insure one of these Hunters? That's kind of odd. I know there are more of them on the road. I'm not the first owner. I haven't put my phone mount up here yet, but I'll do that after we eat. Kevin is taking us over to a burger place a couple, 3 miles away. So we're going to sit and eat because my stomach is totally empty and trying to turn inside out. And that's my maiden voyage on the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Just getting some food, dude. Neutral. Thumpy, 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 thumpy. I'm going to cover this up. that bothers me. I'm not going to start the gripes. I'm not going to start the gripes. I love this thing already, man. Nothing negative, just little things that are going to change for my tastes. Yeah, transmission shifts really nice. Snickety snick, I like it. That low idle is so weird, man. That's going to take some adjusting for my brain. Rear suspension is pretty stiff. Oh, it shifts so easy. This is great. I love it. Oh, and the air feels so good, man. Let me tell you. Woo, it's hot. Mirrors are very buzzy. That's the one complaint that everybody all has in common, it seems like. Everybody that's reviewed it or ridden it, they all say the same thing. The mirrors buzz too much. So I'll put some bar end mirrors on here. I'll probably get the Royal Enfield ones just so it's all Royal Enfield as much as possible. But I might end up doing something like the CRG bar ends out here. We'll find out. Oh yeah, this thing is going to be great. It's a nice... Yeah, that's right. Stopping in the shade. Yeah, it's going to be a great little back road and commuter bike. It's going to be fantastic. The bar risers are going to help me because I'm short-armed. I'm 5'6", 5'7" with my boots on, but that doesn't change my arm reach. And it's sitting forward. It's not a sporty seating position, but it's decidedly lean forward to get to these bars. So I think about 2-inch risers on here will be perfect. Just bump them up a bit. But it's not uncomfortable at all in this, you know, this layout. Very torquey. 4th gear, just roll right up. Downshift optional. It's nimble, feels good. I will be replacing the tires very soon just because I'm kind of a diehard when it comes to there's a good bump when it comes to Michelins. I really like the Michelin Road series. They used to be the Pilot Road, now they just call them Road. So Road 5, Road 6. Very, very good tires. Good all-season performance, wet, dry, doesn't matter. Very predictable cornering, good wear characteristics. Just absolutely fantastic tires. So I've already got a set of these on order for this bike. 110 front, 140 rear, I think. Yeah, 140. Switch gear is pretty good. It takes a little getting used to. It's not the standard Japanese fare, you know, normal metric bike kind of stuff. But it feels good enough. The reach seems a little bit longer to get to it, but it's positive engagement, you know, it's tactile. One thing I am noticing, it looks like the bars are rolled a little bit too far back toward me, so I'm going to have to tip them forward a little bit because even the controls are tilted back. So I'll sort that out. All right, everybody, we finished eating, fraternizing, talking, chatting with a lot of people here. There have been several people that have stopped by already to look at the Hunter. They're all like, oh wow, that's so cool, what is that? The couple of bike guys came by and they were looking at it and just really impressed with it. And pardon me while I'm trying to unthread the mess here. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, man,
there we go.
look at that bike.
Yeah, they were slobbering over it. They've got big bikes, and one guy's got a Triumph, the other guy had a Bonneville, and they were talking about it. And I said, yeah, this is basically Bonneville with less weight, less power, less cost. Very slick. Anyway, so I'm all set up here. My son is waiting for me over there. He's getting gas, I guess. They're just waiting in the shade. I am going to get cabled up here, plugged in and rolling. It's going to be a 2.5-hour hot ride on the back roads down to Houston. You got a lot shorter ride home than I do. Whew.
Yes, I do.
Man, 150 miles or something home for me. So anyway, I'm off. Thanks for coming out, sir. I will catch up with you in the next couple days, and we'll figure out what's what. I think he's telling me to go the other way, but I'm doing back roads, so I could vary the engine speed up and down on this thing. Oh, it feels good to get moving. Good Lord, it's hot. Woo, buddy. Take me home, little hunter. So, I'll have a lot more opinions as the ride progresses here over the next few hours. But what I'm thinking about this Hunter and my intended riding chores, and you know where it kind of fits into my riding style, is as a commuter and a backroad tourer. So kind of the role that my little Super Cub 125 has been in for the last few years, but obviously this has got a little bit more potent motor on it, roughly double the horsepower, and 3.5 times the fuel capacity. So this is a 3.4 or 3.5 gallon fuel tank, and the little Super Cub only holds 1 gallon exactly. So the big difference here is just going to be range, because they get roughly the same fuel economy, at least the advertised fuel economy, in real world use. People are saying anywhere from 85 to 100 miles to the gallon. Well, I mean, my Cub gets 110 at wide open on the highway, so roughly similar speeds. This one should be getting close to that, 100 miles to the gallon. That'd be great. With my earplugs in, I can barely hear the engine. Of course, I'm not really rapping it out, but I can barely hear this engine. I can hear the thump of the exhaust, but there's really no other mechanical noise. It's a very quiet, pleasant little bike. Whee! The rear suspension's pretty stiff. I will have to concur with the other reviewer owners. Rear suspension is a bit tight. I need to look at the preload on it. I didn't even pay attention. It's whatever the factory setting is. So it if it's on the lowest setting, then these shocks are pretty stiff. Of course, everything is fresh on the bike. It hasn't broken in at all. It's got, you know, a whopping 11 miles on it right now. So usually suspension components and other stuff like that kind of breaks in and softens up a little bit. The bike, you know, engine, transmission, everything loosens up over the first 1,000 miles or so. But if the rear shocks are sprung too high, then obviously aftermarket will come to the rescue for that. Should be reasonably cheap. It'd be nice to get some relatively inexpensive shocks for it that are compression and rebound adjustable, but you know, then the front end is not adjustable either. So it's kind of the beauty of bikes like this, is they're so simple. There's no adjustments, there's nothing to do to them. You get on and you ride, and that's really the reason that I want this bike, this style of bike particularly, is it's back to basics riding. There's nothing fancy going on here. There's no extra electronics, ride modes, none of that. You've got anti-lock brakes and fuel injection, and that's it. That's all you need. Cornering is just very easy and neutral. Bike follows a line just fine. I'm not having to push or, you know, adjust in line. Of course, I'm not going fast yet. It's just a very light, simple, easy to ride bike. Very nimble. It's got a pretty short wheelbase. I'll throw the specs up here. I don't remember the wheelbase and the suspension stats off the top of my head. I'm still too new to the bike. Oops, I'm grabbing all my cables here. It's got a pretty steep steering rake, short wheelbase, so it's quite nimble in town. I'll find out how it feels out on the highway at 55, 60 miles an hour, and I'm sure it's going to be just fine. You know, large 17-inch wheels on it. It should track effortlessly. And I'm going to try to take it easy on the motor. You never know what the rev is on this because there's no tack, so you're not really sure where you are in the rev range until you hit a rev limiter, and I don't want to do that, so I'm trying to keep it calm and not really spinning the motor up much until I get used to the bike. Obviously get it past its break-in period. So I'm short shifting it and just being nice. Several of the owner reviews that I've watched online, they said that when they got in at the 300-mile service, that the valves were tight already. And a few owners said, you should just go ahead and open it up early. You know, do your valve check early, like when you get it home. So I might do that, but I'll probably just ride it for a while. I think 300 miles is fine, not, you know, too concerned about the valves being over tight, but I'll definitely pull it apart at or just before that 300-mile service mark. Set the valve clearances, do the early oil change, put a magnetic sump plug in it, might even put a magnetic donut ring on the oil filter. Give it the best fighting chance for longevity. And here I am, just purring along at 55. I thought I was going about 45, so yeah. I mean, it's just doing fine. So it'll be interesting to see, well, I've got GPS right there. I was going to say, it'll be interesting to see later when I pull up my GPS stats to know what speedometer deviation is, but I've got it right here. So, I'm reading 51, 52 on GPS, and I'm reading 55, 56 here. So the speedo on this is optimistic quite a bit. It looks like about 3 or 4 miles per hour optimistic at 55. We get it up to 60 indicated. A little bit more. There's 60 indicated right there, 57. So it's about 3 miles per hour fast. So I'm not sure if the speed sensor is on the front wheel, rear wheel, countershaft sprocket, where it is, but tire size differences might alter that figure a little bit. Man, that low idle is freaking me out. Low idle is tripping my brain. It's so low. Ah, the smell of new bike. Actually, what I smell now is clutch or brakes. Brakes feel good on it so far, but I haven't really gotten in them yet. A lot of reviewers have mentioned that the brakes are pretty wooden. They're not very progressive. I don't have an opinion yet. Lever feel is pretty good on it. It's a very broad, long lever. I might put shorter levers on it just that don't stick out so far. These are really long. I mean, that's over 6-inch long lever there. They do have a little score mark there to snap off instead of tearing up your perch or your master cylinder, so that's a good idea. I'll probably put some shorter adjustable levers on there, but as far as caliper feel, you know, and lever pull, they're fairly tactile. They don't feel spongy, so that's good. These do have stainless braided brake lines, front and rear. I thought that was a nice touch when I looked at them, I don't know, a few weeks ago over at the dealer in Katy. It's pretty impressive for a entry-level motorcycle.
And I'm going to harp on that throughout this ride and the reviews that I do on this bike. The whole moniker of a beginner bike or entry-level bike, it really annoys me because it does the bike a disservice, and it's really the reviewers that are coming up with that name, and it's demeaning and inaccurate. This is a small bore bike. Let's call it what it is. It's a small bore bike. It's not for beginners necessarily. It is beginner friendly, but it's not a beginner bike. Entry level kind of, you know, that could either mean money or expertise, but in either case that could apply to this. But that doesn't mean that it's stuck at an entry level or beginner level type of riding. I'm a lifelong motorcyclist. I've been riding for 38 plus years on the streets. I've got well over 2 million miles under my belt on all flavors of bikes, big, small, touring, whatever, and I'm buying this because this is what I want. I want a smaller, more nimble bike, something that's just basic. I like the fact that it's basic, and I'm far from a beginner, so calling it a beginner bike is just, I don't know, I got a problem with that whole classification. It's short-sighted in my opinion. It's too limiting in the definition, and it carries a negative connotation with it that doesn't need to be there. It's a small bore bike, call it what it is, and it could be for riders of all skill levels and backgrounds. It's a motorcycle. It's a basic machine with wheels and no frills, and if that is reliable, then it's a winning combination in my book. Now, with the advertised fuel economy that this is supposed to get, which is north of 85 miles to the gallon, I'll be easily able to make it home on a single tank of fuel, maybe half a tank of fuel. We're going to find out. 145, 150 miles, something like that.
What I smelled a minute ago, I was thinking was brakes from somebody else. No, it's actually this bike. It must be paint on the cylinder or on the exhaust that I'm smelling. It's kind of a hot paint, hot plasticky smell. It's not bad, but it's not the typical smell that I'm used to with Japanese bikes. The
hot electronic smell. I don't know how to explain it. Everybody that's gotten a new bike, any of the Japanese bikes, they've all got almost a characteristic hot phenolic kind of smell to it for the first few hundred miles. This is a little bit more plasticky smell, so we'll find out. It should dissipate after the engine really bakes and cures everything in. We'll find out. I've ordered pretty much every factory accessory for this thing from Royal Enfield, a couple of aftermarket ones, and the only exception to that is the engine guards. I have not gotten the Royal Enfield engine guard, either the small one or the large one, because there's an aftermarket one that I really like. It's a little bit larger in its hoop circumference, but it doesn't stick out as far on the sides, like diagonally, as the Royal Enfield large engine guard, but it goes down in more of a delta shape. And the reason I like that one is because I could put highway pegs on it. Okay, so I've been trying to watch in the background here. The Eco on the dash is at a certain throttle position. If I go above that, it goes away. I haven't really been able to feel if it's RPM dependent or anything, but I'm cruising along at 55 actual, 58, almost 60 indicated. And when I stay out of the throttle, just kind of at a maintenance load, that Eco light comes on. So I guess that's the most efficient running envelope. Man, that lumbering tick over. It almost feels like it's laboring going that slow, like ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-ka. Clutch actuation on it is very easy. I've read some reviews and watched some reviews on YouTube where people were saying that the clutch was very stiff, or stiffer than it should be. Not in my book. That's one of the easiest clutches I've ever used. Not the lightest, but definitely the easiest as far as engagement and ease of use. No problem at all. It's not stiff, not even close. But some of the newer slipper clutches and slipper assists, and I forget what Kawasaki calls theirs, but the ones on like the Z400 and the Ninja 400, those things are feather light, almost annoyingly so. I don't like them actually. They're a little bit too light. They're not tactile. You don't know when you're squeezing it. It's just like, is there anything there on the other end of that lever, or am I just swinging a lever with my fingers? Oh, good God, it's hot. This thing, you know you're pulling it in, but it's not stiff or difficult. The very broad levers are interesting to me. They're very flat. They're not rounded like most Japanese bikes. They're very wide, thin, and flat. So they give you a good surface to pull on. It just feels weird under the fingers, to me anyway. Oh, buddy, it's hot. Have I mentioned that it's hot yet? Man, this thing is a hoot. This seating position, even without a windscreen on it, this is just so easy and so pleasant to ride. I'm sitting here with an ear-to-ear grin in my helmet. My cheeks are starting to hurt. I wondered why. This is so effortless. It's so comfortable. It's just, it feels natural. I would like the bars to be up a tiny bit higher. Taller riders might find the rider triangle a little bit cramped. I noticed that the foot pegs are fairly high on it, but I'm short-legged and it feels good to me. I've got, about a 90-degree bend in my knees. I've got a 30-inch inseam, 5'6" tall. This thing is so effortless. I love it. I am going to put down a ton of touring miles on this. And yes, before anybody mentions it in the comments, I'm not breaking this in 100% according to the manual. It says you're not supposed to exceed like 46 miles an hour or something like that for the first few hundred miles. Yeah, sorry. That's not going to work anywhere in the United States unless you're just rolling around your neighborhood. I'm just going to spin the engine up and down a little bit, alternate between 4th and 5th, and try to maintain 60 indicated, which is about 57 actual. The suspension is firm, but it's pretty composed. I don't really notice any wallowing or hobby horsing at all. It's pretty even as far as the fork compliance versus the rear shock compliance. There have only been a few bumps where I've kind of felt the front end floating independently of the rear. Downshift again, run the engine up a bit. I don't need to downshift to climb this hill, but trying to vary the engine RPM a bit up and down, not get stuck in the same rev range too long. Kind of hard to do on the highway when you got queues of traffic behind you. Trying not to go more than about 50% throttle at any given point. Yeah, I'm only at about 30% throttle to maintain, 60 indicated here. I know what this reminds me of. The Honda CB200 Twin Star. That's what it reminds me of. It's just got a lot more torque, and the engine doesn't rev to the moon, not 12 or 14,000 RPM redline. The little Twin Star, the feel of the bike feels almost identical to the little Honda CB200. But of course, with those classic bikes, you've got all the downsides of, the old metallurgy, They're very rust prone everywhere. Tanks and, you know, frame and everything, they tend to rust. They're carbureted. The electrical systems on them are finicky. They're always replacing stuff. They got bad brakes, bad suspension. So it's always a project or a challenge to own and operate those things. Unless you totally go through it and rebuild it from the ground up with new stuff. You're always tinkering and fixing something. And I don't like to wrench on my bikes more than ride them. So going with a modern retro classic like this is the way to go. And the price would probably be the same or cheaper for something like this versus a classic Honda, because you're going to spend $3,000 or $4,000 for a decent condition bike, and then you're still going to have a bunch of stuff that you have to do to it. I mean, if you bought a basket case for $1,000, you're going to have to put $3,000 or $4,000 in it if you want it to be reliable and, you know, not end up on the side of the road every other day. And they require a lot of maintenance. This $39.99, I paid $4,900 right out, and that's with all the state taxes and, you know, the dealer fees and everything else. But it's got a warranty and it's new. It's brand new. It's fuel injected. It's modern. It's got modern paint and modern metallurgy, so the frame is going to be stronger, less flex, better suspension. Even if it's budget suspension, it's better than that old stuff. Classic bikes are they're fun, but they can be a handful. So I'm going through all the reviews in my head of things that I've heard about this new J-Series 349cc engine. Everyone's saying that it's just absolutely silky smooth. I wouldn't agree with that. It has just enough vibration and character to it that you know it's there. I don't really feel too much vibration through the pegs. There is some, just enough to know it's there. It's not buzzy, tingly, annoying at, you know, 60 miles an hour. I'm not running it anywhere near red line, so I don't know if that changes as the revs go higher, but for now, running along at these speeds, there's a pleasant, mild vibration through the bars and the pegs. You know it's there, it's doing something, but it's not obtrusive, it's not annoying at all. Not unpleasant. The grips are pretty comfortable on this thing. They kind of remind me of the old balloony grips that some of the Honda touring bikes came with. There was an aftermarket brand that my dad always put on his touring bikes. I can't remember the name of it, but they were like these pillow air-filled grips inside. Kind of remind me of that. They're a little bit narrow from the inner edge to the outer shoulder or hip here, but they fit my hands well because I got small hands. But if you put the bar end mirrors on here, then you got to pull those off. I'm not sure about the grips. I think the grips could stay, but these ends have to come off, and you got to put on bar end adapters. And the only ones from Royal Enfield that I've seen are silver. I wouldn't want to put silver bar ends on here with black mirrors, so I'll have to figure that out. These mirrors are okay. A lot of people say they're just awful, they're unusable, but I think that might be stretching it a bit. They are a little vibey, but you can still see through them. At least I'm not looking at my shoulders. They're spaced out far enough that they're useful, but I will be replacing them with something else. 36 more miles of this, and then I'll be turning off on another little rural highway, get off of 290 here. Unfortunately, between the Houston area and Austin, there's not a lot of rural road options that are easily connecting you to the two cities. You're either on 71 or on 290. There are a handful of little farm-to-market roads off to the side, but invariably they always lead back to this stretch of 290 if you're on the northern stretch. So might as well just take 290 for a little while. I will jump off as soon as possible, though. Get some variance in the engine RPM. Oh, golly, golly, it's hot. Yep, still has the smell. Engine's still baking in. It's a different smell, I'll say that. It smells different than any other of my new bikes that I've had. Must be a difference in the paint compound that they use on the cylinder and maybe on the exhaust. It could be, you know, the exhaust packing that's kind of baking in, you know. Wonder what kind of packing is in there, if it's a steel wool or if they're using some kind of fiberglass or what it is. If any batting. It might not have batting in it. It might just be baffles. Who knows? I'm pretty impressed so far with the crosswind stability on this, because, you know, when big trucks pass by or crosswinds or whatever, a lot of bikes tend to get a little bit unstable, especially lighter bikes. This one has just enough heft at 399 pounds, 400 pounds, let's just call it, that it's not really affected too much by crosswinds. You get it gentle pushes, but it's not a rapid instability, so that's good. That's a pretty significant breeze I'm fighting. It's coming from right this direction, probably 15 to 18 miles an hour. It's breezy. The bike is doing fine in it though. I can feel it on my torso pushing me, but the bike isn't getting pushed offline, so that's great. I thought about trailering this thing back, but what's the fun of that? It's hot as hell out here today, but what better way to get used to the bike and become acquainted with it with some nice leisurely break-in miles on the highway. I'd much rather do it in a curvy, twisty, scenic highway than this highway, but you know. Put 150 of the 300 break-in miles on it right away. I like this transmission, man. It's just super easy, very precise. I haven't had a missed shift yet. Nothing has felt, you know, halfway. It just clicks right in. It's great. Snickety snick little shifts. Yeah, I wonder if the other reviewers that have ridden this, and they were saying that there's a little bit of a throttle hang. I think what they're explaining or misdiagnosing is flywheel effect, because I feel it too, but it's not actually fueling, it's just the heavy flywheel inertia. Railroad track, railroad track. Where's the road? There it is. I'm on 36. Cool. Yeah, 36 is a decent little highway. Yeah, this is my usual route. Man, that low idle is just tripping me out. I might get used to it after a few years. That is going to take forever to get used to. I mean, it's torquey enough at the bottom end, it doesn't feel like it's going to stall out, but at idle, at tick over, I swear it sounds like it's about to die. If this were a carbureted bike, I'd be reaching in there and bumping that idle up. Like right there, it just feels like it's about to die. This engine just has such a pleasant thrum to it, a very calming demeanor, engine note, everything about it, right around 55 to 60 indicated. So I wonder if putting a +1 front sprocket on it would help maintain that same calm demeanor at a little bit higher road speed, you know, 60 to 65. That'd be great. It just sounds so happy right about here, right around 55 to 60 indicated. Just effortless, very relaxed. I like it. Pretty good incline here. I'm not quite full throttle, I'm about 3/4 throttle. Gaining in top gear from 56 up to 60 or so pretty easily. About 70% throttle. That's not bad. Against the wind, no less. Not bad for a little 20 horsepower 350. Doing okay. Welcome to Belleville. You know, if I were just looking at this landscape and not feeling it right now, I would think that it was winter time out here. Cold, you know, like late fall, early spring. It's usually so green out here, but it's just dead. If you dropped about 60 degrees off of the temperature right now, this would be how it looks out here in the wintertime usually. Speaking of heat, I'm not really noticing any heat coming off of this engine. I'm sure it's there, but with the ambient temperatures being as high as they are, I'm not really feeling it. So this little single air-cooled right here between my legs is not putting off all that much heat. It's not bothersome, you know, not noticeable enough to really feel, in contrast to the heat around me right now. 104, 105, whatever the ambient temperature is, so it's not bad. Now in the wintertime, it might be nice to have some of the heat off of that engine, but it seems to be a cool running little thumper. Horns, nothing, you can't even hear it. Well, I gotta fix that. I haven't even tried the horn on this thing, I just thought about it. Nah, it's a decent tone, but it's way too quiet. Put a Denali sound bomb on this bad boy. Okay, it's Gatorade time. Oof. Man, that's a good looking bike. I like it a lot. A lot. Okay, drink now. Must have. Got a drink. Whew. Ooh, that handle's hot. Good God. Sun shining on it. Oh, big Gatorade. Meeny, meeny, miny, mo. Hoo-yah. Oh, better. Body armor. They're not on sale, but I don't care. 3 for $6. Maybe I'll do Gatorade. 3 for $6. Eeny, miny. It's not the 0, is it? I hate that stuff. Nope, that's good. And mo. Ooh, I like that one. That's the one I like. I think that's the one I like. Good enough. 3 for $6. Done. Mine. Gimme. You want something, Josh? Ooh, I am sweating. 3 for $6. I'm getting 3. Okay. All right, let's get. It's not getting any colder. Save it for later. 28 fluid ounces. 828 mil. Gone. Done. Bye bye. Good God, it's hot out here. Have I mentioned that it's hot? What is that? Is that us? Yeah. All right. Off we go. Chugga 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 chugga. Whew, even the levers are hot. The sun's shining on them. Yikesy. Oh god, it's hot. Ah, sweat dripping into my eyes. Okay. Oh, great, groove pavement, just my favorite for the day. Oh man, it's really grooved. Look at this. Now I guess it's a good test. Tires are doing okay. Dancing around a bit. These are very, very steep, nasty grooves. Oh yeah, this is not good for motorcyclists. This is real bad news for motorcyclists. These are serious grooves here, kids. These are like an inch deep. Man, this sucks. A lot. The shoulder would be smoother because it's a crosshatch instead of this linear nonsense. Iron Supply Powersports on the right. Now that I've got the deal done, I can talk about that money. Iron Supply wanted almost $1,000 more for this bike. Ouch! Out the door price was like $5,800 and change. I got this for $4,900 and change out the door. Crazy. And they didn't have this color, so it was a moot point. That brake line looks funny. Other people have mentioned it. I have to concur. I think they could have gone around the headstock here and then back across the underside of the triple tree and gotten a straighter shot at the caliper, and it wouldn't be as visible. All right, so back in my neighborhood, 150.6 miles on the clicker. So it's, 142, 143 mile trip home roughly. It had 7 something miles on it when I picked it up. So pretty good first break-in ride. I tried to keep the speeds below 60-ish and didn't really rev it up too much. Tried to vary my speed a little bit. It's a lot of long highway slog, so I was maintaining about 50 to 55 on average and dropping from 5th to 4th and holding a speed, just to raise and lower the RPM a bit, so it's not just sitting there droning along at a fixed RPM all that time. Taking it easy on it, and it's done the trip in 2/3 of a tank of fuel, it looks like. I don't know how many dots there are, but I've got at least a quarter tank, probably half a tank left. I won't know until I fill it up to find out exactly how linear that gauge is. But yeah, it has done well. I didn't really notice any heat from it, except for right back there when I stopped at that light. I could feel heat coming off the engine back there. It wasn't obnoxious. I could just tell that it was there. All right, so home again. This time on a new bike. I'll try to put this video in the cooker and chop it up and give some kind of a semi-concise first ride video, owner's review, first ride, first impression, whatever. And then I'll put some more camera mounts on this thing and go out and do a proper second ride review and show everybody what it's all about. And where's the truck? Oh, the truck is still at the it's at Christian Brothers. I got to pick it up. Anyway, I will catch you all later. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you for the next installment. 151.6 on the clicker. Ugh.